Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 43rd episode of Triboro Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Alonso. As always, joined on the other side by Nicholas O'Brien. It's very weird that the Yankees just did not play 3 games this week. They
And
only
I,
played
I,
4 games.
I thought I saw them. I could have sworn I saw them.
And let's get into the Bronx.
No,
No,
no, no, no.
no,
A
no, no,
Subway
no.
Series sweep in Queens for your New York Metropolitans. How
Hmm.
do you feel, Justin?
I feel like it's one of those things of they caught the Yankees caught the Mets at the wrong time for both
Mhm.
sides. Like
Yeah,
the Mets caught the Yankees at the
the
right
right time.
time. The Yankees got the Mets at the wrong time,
Yeah, definitely.
and that's literally it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the best
definitely
way I could put it.
two completely opposite stories in the month of June. Like the Yankees have been scuffling, especially coming into that series with the Mets,
Whoa,
and the Mets.
25 people in the Yankees were scuffling.
Yes, you're right. You're right. You're right. 25 out of 26, because we all know Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge. But yeah, and then the Mets obviously have been just rolling ever since June started. The Mets just play better when they're gay. I don't know. You know, Grimace, June, it all came together. But it was a pretty fun series for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it
Mm.
quite a bit.
I
Quite a
was
bit.
working both days the night shift, so I barely saw either game.
You know what? And that's probably for the best.
It is for the best.
It is for the best. But we'll get into the games. Since the Mets won, I will be covering the recap because fuck you.
I just thought
In
we were
game
doing
one,
it as a whole, not individual games. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
wrong. In game one, the Mets threw out David Peterson, who lasted 4 1/3 innings, only giving up 3 hits, 1 earned run, and 5 walks with 8 strikeouts. And I think the 5 walks were 3 in the first. No, 2 in the first, which was, of course, to Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. And then I think he walked Judge again. No, he hit Judge. Then he walked DJ. He walked Glaber. He walked Verdugo. Anyways, you get the gist. But David Peterson had a really weird outing. But honestly, the way the Yankees lineup was currently, it's kind of you get past Soto and Judge, and there really wasn't much
Mm-hmm.
else there. Uh,
Especially when one of your young, promising players just is not playing.
yeah, I mean he started game two, right?
He did, yes.
We are talking about Ben Rice. Sat out against David Peterson in game one, played against Sean Manaea in game two. I still think he should be the everyday first baseman. Just he looked good. He looked good.
So it's so infuriating. I'll get more into him later because I have like a lot of numbers like on him just overall and how he's done so far. But
Good.
it's a lot more than just the numbers where even you seen it, where just like the plate discipline
Yeah.
for him is just
For sure.
the command he has and kind of like that presence he has, you don't see that with rookies.
Right.
And so I just think that you can't. I don't give a shit that a play. Like, why is a guy that just got DFA'd by the Athletics starting over him? Like, that's the
Yeah.
best way to see it. Like, yeah, JD Davis, good against lefties, whatever, whatever. But you can't tell me that he should be. You're. It wasn't even that. It was JD Davis and Jemiah Jones both starting
Yeah.
over him, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous and
Pretty
just
pretty bad.
stupid.
Yeah. Jemiah Jones DHing that first game with
That's
Davis starting at first. Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And also, Jemiah Jones, one of his only values is that he's a utility guy. Is that
Right.
he can play like 3 spots in the infield, play all the outfield, and you're DHing him? What's the fucking point?
Yeah, that was a surprise when that lineup came out. Again, it just made that Yankees lineup like that much less scary. I mean, again, you get past Judge, you get past Soto, and they had Gleyber Torres bat clean up that first game, which was a choice. Uh, Verdugo has been struggling, and then Davis, and then LeMahieu and Jemiah Jones. But
Verdugo hasn't even necessarily been struggling. I think he has like an 85, 86 WRC plus since coming off the paternity list, which is about like a month. So I wouldn't say that's struggling, but it's below average for the defense. But it's
fair.
just that when everyone else around him is hitting the way they are, except for 2 guys.
Yeah, kind of just
But
puts him under a magnifying glass.
yeah,
Garrett Cole started the game for the Yankees and got absolutely rocked by the Mets, including giving off 2 home runs to Mark Vientos. First home run, I think, was a hanging slider or some breaking pitch. The second home run was a lot more impressive in my mind. Not Judge. Cole did take a tick back on velocity. I think he even said after the game
More than
he
a
was looking.
tick.
Well, a
I'll
few
get I'll
ticks.
get more into it later or after you're done
Yeah,
with your point, but
but still a fastball on top left corner of the zone. So an away pitch to Vientos, he takes it the other way. It just scrapes by, and he does get a lucky bounce out of the off the fence, out of the park. So 2 home runs, 2 home runs for Vientos off of Garrett Cole, very impressive. But Cole finishes day 4 innings pitched, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 4 walks, and he did not strike out a batter.
my thing with Cole is that I'm pretty sure 2 of those home runs that were given up on fastballs that were less than 92 miles an hour.
Right. Yeah.
On fastballs, not off speed, on fastballs. So I don't really care about it because he was throwing 97. I think he was hitting 99. I think the average was 97. He was hitting 99 in that first inning. The
Yeah.
average the rest of the game was 94, and even then he was throwing 91, 92 at points. And he
Right.
did say he intentionally took it back because he had a 28 pitch first inning. And I really don't care because for him this is still spring training.
Yeah.
Like this is he never had a spring. He pitched I think 1 start in spring training. This is his ramp up. I don't care. The strikeouts, I will say, that was kind of like what, but when he's throwing
Yeah.
92, 93 miles an hour on his fastball and he usually throws 97, 98, yeah, that's going to
Right.
happen.
Yeah. Everything else just doesn't play as well. But
Yeah.
you know, even besides the velocity, the Mets somehow own Garrett Cole, and I didn't even know
Yeah, I
this.
didn't know this either.
Like it was pretty stark, but throughout his career, Garrett Cole, if I can pull it up really quickly, it has going into the game. So I don't know what it is now. Going into the game, he had a 5.89 ERA against the New York Mets, which again I had no idea that he struggled that much against the Mets.
You think it's like 6.5 about that now?
Right, something like that. But to your point, like you mentioned earlier, the first home run to Vientos it wasn't a breaking ball. It was a fastball at 91.5 miles an hour. Let's see. Bader's was a home run on a 93-mile-an-hour fastball. And I think that other Vientos home run was also a fastball. Yeah, 92.3.
Yeah.
So there you go. His velocity obviously wasn't there. And look, to the Mets' credit, they took advantage of it.
They
You
still
know what I
hit
mean?
them, yeah, but just it's
Right.
one of those things of you're not going to take it away from the Mets, but I also am not going to take it away from Cole at the same
Yeah,
time.
you're not
Kind of
going
one
to
of those
knock
things.
Cole.
Yeah.
It's long term, shouldn't be any issue. But
Yeah. He got his pitches in. That's all I really cared about.
that's all that matters. But the Yankees made it interesting in Game 1 because the Mets bullpen is continuing to show little cracks this week. And the first one came against the Yankees, or more so, Aaron Judge, when Reed Garrett decided to groove a fastball down the middle of the plate to the best player in baseball with the bases loaded. What else do you expect? Aaron Judge hits a grand slam, makes it a, what was it, 9-7 ball
9-7.
game? Yeah, 9-7 ball game.
I
I
just want to
mean,
say, do you know who started that rally?
I forget.
Ben Rice.
Yes, you're right. I think
That's all I
Ottavino
want.
started that, I
Pinch
believe.
hit,
Never.
pinch hit at hit for Ben Rice. It's ridiculous to me. It's so silly and goofy to me. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. I will say Austin Wells also had a big part in that rally as
He
well.
did,
So the young
yes.
kids kind of doing their part in that little rally. But the Mets would hang on to Game 1, beating the Yankees 9-7. No thanks to Reed Garrett in the bullpen. But win's a win. Mets take it. Game 2 of the Subway Series was Sean Manaea up against Luis Heel. Sean Manaea pitched 5 innings, only giving up 2 hits, 0 earned runs. Another Mets pitcher giving up 5 walks and 3 strikeouts. Do you think this was by design, the walking? Because they pitched around Judge and Soto. I think
Hmm.
that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
So you would think that was by design.
Yeah,
I think it
definitely
was a bit
would.
of both. I think definitely pitched around Soto and Judge, but the other guys he walked was just missing location. But
Let me,
again, the
because
Met.
I just
Yeah,
want to
go ahead.
see something really quickly, not that game, because I have a couple of numbers. Let me. Yeah, Soto was 0 for 2 with two walks. Judge was 2 for 2 with a walk. You
Right.
look at. I'll get more into the rest of the lineup later, but in game one, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, 3 for 6, 3 walks, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. Game two, 2 for 4, 3 walks, 2 RBIs, and a home run.
That
So you
you
can't say
take
they didn't
out
do their part.
right. You take out Soto and Judge, and really, you really just take out Judge, and the Yankees score what, three
I think
runs that entire series?
no less.
Two, maybe.
I think it's like 2, yeah, because he scored all their runs on Sunday, or not Sunday, on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It may be 3, but whatever. They
Right.
accounted for
Right.
8
Two
of
or
the
three.
runs, 8 out of 9
Yeah.
runs.
Yeah. Which
I think
it's just
Wells
a
had a double, and that was the other run, but
yeah, which is just a testament to how poorly the lineup has been performing leading into the series. But again, the Mets jumped all over Luis Gil. Mark Vientos had himself a game in game one, and then it was the other young Met in Francisco Alvarez who had himself a game in game two. Alvarez hitting a 2-run home run off of Luis Gil. And man, Alvarez just had himself a week in the series. And to your credit, Justin, he's really changed how this Mets team look. This lineup looks a lot deeper with him in there, and with him out of it, you kind of wince a little bit, like you're missing a little something. But Alvarez just brings in some extra energy. Forget about what he brings on the actual field. Just the energy and the vibe he brings off is just you can't really put words to it.
I do not think it is a stretch whatsoever to say that if he did not get hurt, he would be starting the All Star game.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because
Uh,
the NL is a lot weaker at catcher compared to
yeah,
the AL, so I think that he doesn't get hurt. I think he's starting the All Star game.
yeah, because you have Will Smith, William Contreras.
Even then, they're having good years,
Right.
but and also you have the Mets, who New York market, you have a lot of fans, so it sucks. But that's what the All Star voting is all based
Yes.
off how many numbers you get, how many people you have.
Right.
So
So so yeah, but Alvarez just great game, 3 for 3, home run, double, 3 RBIs on the day. Luis Gil continued his little scuffle as of late, only lasting 4 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 5 earned runs, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts. For me, I think the walks were the most concerning thing.
I just don't understand what he's doing with his pitch mix.
Right.
His fastball averages 55% for the year. He threw it 33% of the time.
Yeah.
His changeup, I talked so much about how his changeup was down so much. It was up to 28.7%, which is the highest of the year. So I think he almost overcorrected because instead of taking the slider down, which he should have, he took 20% off how often he's throwing his fastball. I
Right.
think it's a combination of that, and you look at his innings logs going back to, so it's going back 2017, not including 2020. 42 innings, 46 innings, 96 innings, 79 innings, 21 innings, 4 innings, 85 innings.
Right.
I just think he's fatigued. He
Yeah.
hasn't pitched much at all in his career. So I think it's a combination of one fatigue plus just I don't know what on God's green earth he's doing with his pitch mix.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. The fatigue is definitely going to be an issue, if not already later down the. I think Aaron Boone's also kind of hinted towards it a little bit. If I'm not wrong.
I didn't hear anything, but I also didn't look for anything.
Yeah,
I didn't hear
but
anything saying for or against that.
yeah, but in this game, you also had a pretty lengthy rain delay. I honestly thought they were going to call it because at that point, I
Yeah.
think it was 7-0. I forgot when the rain delay was, but it was a lot of runs to not so many runs at that point. But later, they resumed, scored another 5 runs thanks to a Tyrone Taylor 3-run home run. But yeah, Adrian Hauser, three inning save, his first save of his career. and the Mets took Game 2 12-2. So a complete dismantling of that Yankees team by the Mets.
Yeah. It just I think that you went into it with two guys that just with Cole first off, just he was still like getting into it, and Heel who just he's I think it honestly is fatigue. I don't see how you could point to anything else being the main factor. I talk a lot about the pitch mix, but the fatigue I think has to do so much more,
Yeah,
and just they didn't give the Yankees a chance to win.
right. Yeah, I
It
think that was the
literally
biggest.
took a superhuman comeback from the offense to get it within 2 runs in game one.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then game two, you go down 7-0, whatever it was, and then you have that rain delay, like you're already thinking about
Yeah.
Toronto.
Right. Yeah. By the rain delay, I'm sure a lot of the guys checked out. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you mentioned, I think this series is a lot more on the pitching than the offense. I think when you have guys like Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, and you have good other players who, yes, are struggling right now,
Mm-hmm.
but have had good careers in Gleyber Torres. Alex Verdugo, I think, is a good role player. DJ, who knows what you're going to get from him. Ben Rice should have been playing. But when you have a lineup like that, the runs will come. Your starting
Yeah.
pitching and your relief pitching, for that matter, needs to keep you in those games.
Yeah. I think they also just. I barely talked about this. I think I may have hinted at it. They got so unlucky with Dominguez just
Yeah,
going down, and then literally within 3 or 4 days, Stant went down. They just got
yeah,
so unlucky with that. That just yeah, we it's on the pitching, but I think the offense should have scored 2 more runs against 2024 Shamanaya.
yeah. I
Not
mean,
a
look,
not a knock on Manaya, but more
right, but
so on the thing of he's not what he used to be in Oakland.
right. He's nothing. Even David Peterson too. They're not. I think there are both solid major league pitchers, but you're not going up against Jacob DeGrom and Max Scherzer
And you
or
also have the number 1 and 2 MVP candidates in your lineup for the AL.
right. Like
Maybe
they
one
had
and three,
chances.
whatever. But
David Peterson walked five. Sean Manaea walked five. Yeah, that's Judge and Soto. I'm sure are most of those walks, but Alex Verdugo killed the Yankees in Game 2.
mm,
He grounded into two double plays early on that
yeah,
completely killed any momentum that they had.
yeah,
So, like you mentioned, I think the Mets did catch the Yankees at the right time,
mm,
opposite way for the Yankees catching the Mets. But I think this Yankees team is a lot better than is showing
mm,
recently. But credit to the Mets, where they took advantage of Garrett Cole not being 100%, Luis Heel scuffing a little bit, and the lineup outside of Judge and Soto kind of just being not much to show for it.
yeah.
So credit to them
I
there.
did not. I completely forgot to bring up this point. Thank you for giving me that segue. In the first game, the Yankees' order after Aaron Judge was 3 for 23. In the second game, they were 4 for 20. If you take out Alex Verdugo going 2 for 4, who even then he, like you said, had two double plays with the base loaded, they were 2 for 16. The Yankees lineup was 7 for 43, outside it past Aaron Judge in those two
Yeah.
games.
You're
Not
not going to win like that.
And then, like I said, Soto and Judge, they were 5 for 10, 6 walks, 8 RBIs, 3 home runs.
Right.
Like you, literally, they were the only two that showed up.
Yeah. And Soto hasn't really been slugging as of late.
Yeah.
Like, getting his walks, he's getting on base. But, I mean, yeah, he hit a home run in Game 1, but,
And also the game one in Toronto,
right, fair
he
enough.
had that clutch home
But
run. Yeah.
heading into the series, I feel
Yeah.
like
Fair.
we talked about it last week with his slump that, he had a over 400 on base percentage.
It was like 460.
Right, he's getting on base at almost a 50% clip. So, still, he's getting guys on base for Aaron Judge, but you walk Aaron Judge and Alex Verdugo. It
Yeah.
just doesn't strike fear into any pitcher on the opposing side.
Yeah.
So, I fully expected a split going
I did
into the
too.
Subway Series. I think that's
It's always a
always the
split.
expectation,
It's always a split.
but the season series is still up for grabs. It will be at least a split, but I
Hmm.
think Yankees and Mets don't play until a week after the All-Star break in Yankee Stadium, something
A
like
while.
that.
It's in a while. It's in like late July, mid to
Yeah,
late
something like
July.
that. But yeah, so that's all I had on the Subway Series. The Mets showed up big time. Yankees, besides Aaron Judge, not so much.
You're not even talking about Lindor, where it's like every hit, it was just like I wasn't mad. I just like expected it.
Yeah,
Or just he absolutely shreds the Yankees. There's just no argument against it. Like he may be, it's probably him and Devers that are like the two biggest Yankee killers in all of baseball.
I wouldn't be shocked.
I'm
But
trying to
yeah,
think of anyone else, but like I'd probably put him after Devers just because of how much they play.
yeah,
But
for
Lindor
sure.
probably has better numbers. But no,
But yeah, but if you got nothing else to add,
nope.
take us away.
Into the Bronx. Choo choo.
Now entering the Bronx.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Bronx. We already talked about the Subway Series, so we're going to get right into the Triboro injury update. So, first off, Clark Schmidt, he resumed his throwing program. He was set to not throw for 4 to 6 weeks. It's been 4 weeks exactly. So, that's just incredible injury update. And I think that his name is going to be very undervalued in the way that it comes up because the Yankees had a 3.22 ERA before Clark Schmidt went down, the second best in baseball. Since then, they are 28th in ERA with a 5.18 ERA. That's not their ERA now for the year, but that's just in that month since they have a 5.18 ERA.
Jeez.
It just, he was giving them
That's
depth. He was doing so much for them that it's also a thing of, if you want to bring him back when he's only built up to 45 pitches, you could do something where you have him and Luis Heel do like a tandem start, just to give
Right.
Heel a little bit more time, something like that. But we're not going to see Clark for a bit. It's going to be probably another month if everything goes right, because usually how many weeks you're off, that's how many weeks you need for a build up. But yeah, that's it with Clark. Do you have anything on him?
No, I think he's just obviously depth is super important, and like you mentioned, and as we kind of talked about in the intro, that if you're going to start limiting Luis Heel's innings, if you want to start kind of just taking him back a little bit, Clark Schmidt is the guy that's going to replace him, and getting him back sooner rather than later can probably help Heel with his innings limit as well. So
Yeah, just because people are going to forget, Clark Schmidt had a 2.52 ERA, and according to Baseball Savant, he was 90th in pitching run value.
right,
So or 90th
super
percentile.
underrated.
Yeah.
Super underrated.
But then going into some other guys, Scott Efros transferred to Double A. So far he's pitched 4 innings in 3 games, 6 strikeouts. Good to see. Nick Birdie threw a bullpen today. Lou Trevino has resumed his he's resumed throwing off of a mound. Forgot he existed. And then Giancarlo Stanton has resumed activity on a treadmill on Thursday.
Yeah,
So good news. That was It was a hamstring with him because it always is.
of course it is.
You've seen how like tight my hamstrings are when I try to like stretch. I think he has like tighter hamstrings. I
Okay,
just
yeah.
don't like. It's so bad, but
Stan has to do those flexibility tests that you do in elementary school with the little
he
box.
just constantly does the fitness gram pacer test.
Honestly, just a consistent running program throughout the
Yeah,
year.
just and then he tears both those hamstrings. But getting into the actual games themselves, so Marcus Stroman saved the Yankees season.
Apparently.
Somehow. So it was the bottom of the 5th in a 1-1 game with the bases loaded. No outs. Mark Stroman rolls a double play ball. Glaber gets one runner, or gets the guy at second. Runner safe at first. Then Stroman ends up cursing out Glaber. I will say, I don't think Glaber had a play on first. I think the guy was safe regardless. I don't think he could have done anything. The only thing he could have done was have a stronger arm.
Right,
which-
which is
Yeah.
how do you control in that moment?
Yeah, but so then Stroman ended up like cursing out Glaber. I like and dislike what happened because actually let me hear what you have to say first because you you have a lot of
I have
comments about
feelings
Mark.
on
Yeah,
Stroman. Uh, I think it's pretty bad to do that on the mound.
hmm
I don't hate the energy and the emotion that it brings because it happens. I completely understand that. But showing up a teammate on the mound when you loaded the bases is it's a little rough around the edges. I really don't like that. I
yeah,
don't mind if it's behind closed doors. If you want to scream at Glaber in the locker room, go for it. If you want to do it in the dugout, go for it. Not on the mound, not in the middle of the inning when you basically got yourself in trouble
yeah,
and the two guys behind you making a double play are doing all they can to get you out of it.
yeah. I will say that's the part I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
The part that I did like is after that happened, Aaron Judge goes right up to Stroman. He tells him like, just tell him like, we don't do that here, whatever, whatever. And later in the game, Glaber ends up hitting a home run, and Stroman is the first person in the dugout to say something
Yeah.
to him and congratulate him. So it's one of those things of you love the energy, you love the intensity, but a big thing in the offseason is they were talking about getting these guys that are more intense. That's part of the reason they got Verdugo. You look at the difference between Verdugo and Stroman. I think Verdugo's intensity is it's a lot prettier than
Yeah.
Stroman's. Let's go with that, where it's like you
Yes.
love the intensity from Verdugo, where Stroman, it's kind of just like a can of worms. But even then, people talked about how Stroman was a problem on Twitter. After the game, he was on it saying how it was his fault, how he took
Yeah.
full responsibility for it. In years past, he wouldn't have done that. He would not have done that. You saw him not do that in years past.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that does show a tad bit of maturity, or
I do
more
too.
maturity, some growth.
Yeah.
But yeah, just had to
Yeah.
mention that whole thing, of course.
Of course. Yeah. You have to. There's a time and a place for everything. Like I said, if you want to do it off off camera, like in the dugout, in the locker room, whatever, completely fine with it. Don't mind it. But it's when you single out a player and you do it on the field is when it's an issue. And kind of like you mentioned with Verdugo, I feel like when his intensity, his energy is more kind of like about himself, I guess. It's kind of like, or like
It's
to the
him
team.
against the other team.
Right.
It's yeah,
Right. Like he hits a big home run, he's screaming around the bases, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Stroman sometimes I feel has the tendency to kind of
take it
break
out
a
on
little
others.
and take it out on others rather than, kind of compose himself and whatever. But
Yeah,
again, he took full blame for it, which is, again, showed maturity, like you said. So onwards and upwards.
yeah. And then I could go two ways from this point. Pick one or two.
I will choose path 2, please.
All right, so that's Juan Soto. So it ended up becoming a 3-1 game, and the way the Yankees scored their first run was there was some play where Judge there was a double
was
play
weird.
ball. It was so
Yeah.
weird. A double play ball got hit to the second baseman. Instead of throwing the ball to the shortstop, the second baseman tried chasing Judge, but then right before he tagged Judge, he threw the runner out at first. Soto was on third base. He, with a heads-up play, ran home, ended up scoring. Judge was safe at second. Keep in mind, there was one out when the double play ball was hit, so the inning would have been over. So, first off, weird. Soto had an incredible heads-up play, incredible slide. He ended up, like, I don't know if it was, like, jamming his thumb or hand, but he did
Yeah.
something where he got a contusion on his hand, so he didn't play in Game 2. He was a late scratch. He literally, like, half an hour before the game, he got scratched. Then today, the Yankees waited until 80 minutes before the game to release their lineup. Soto was not in the lineup. The first pitch was scheduled for 1:37. At 1:31, the Yankees re-released another lineup with Juan Soto starting in that lineup.
Yeah,
And
that's got to be one of the weirder things I've
it's
seen.
his first at bat back, works a walk, Aaron Judge hits an absolute moonshot. That whole sequence of like 80 or like 90 to 100 minutes was just what?
Yeah. 'Cause how many times do you see a guy get scratched to then be replaced by a better player.
Yeah.
I think Davis was starting initially,
Yeah.
and then
And then
he
Judge
got
took over at DH. Yeah.
right, and then Soto started. It's like how many times do you see a worse
It
guy get
was
pulled back to then bring in one of your better players?
it was just so weird. It was
And so I
so
guess his
weird,
hand is
man.
okay.
Yeah. And another thing too is that like as much as I love Ben Rice, he is not your 2-hole hitter. That was able to move him then to 6, which is just so much better for the lineup overall. Um but yeah, I think it's okay too. Uh he like absolutely destroys Kevin Gosman, by the way. I think he's 7 for 13 with 10 walks. And maybe 11 walks. But yeah,
Insane.
that's just absurd.
Really.
But then, going back to Path 1. So, because I did mention Gleyber Torres, he got benched after making a plethora of misplayed balls or misplayed plays over the last couple weeks, especially in Game 1 against the Mets. And
Really upset about that, yeah.
yeah, just not good whatsoever. So he was
Yep.
benched for 2 games, for Game 2 against the Mets, Game 1 in Toronto. In those 3 games since he's been back, 2 for 4 with the home run, 2 for 4, 2 for 4. So, 3-game sample size. But and he's always hit well in Toronto. Maybe that helped, that benching.
Right. Right.
Maybe.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need to get your head out of your ass and kind of like, if the reason you get benched, it's kind of like, all right, shit, what did I do? What do I need to change? You know, kind of one of those points where it can really push you towards reflection and
Mm,
kind of you can look yourself in the mirror and be like, hey, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to fix? You know, what can I do to help this team win?
mm,
And so far, so good. So hopefully it continues.
yeah. Is there a way on... can you not do that? Because there's something I just thought about, but I
Uh-huh.
don't know. Oh, wait, here? Can I go here? No, I don't think that would work. Alright, whatever. Doesn't matter. I just wanted to over exaggerate on a point, but I can't find it. Um, who do we want to talk about now? Speaking of hitters, we could just move on to DJ. So, in the Toronto series, he was 3 for 14, not good. But he had 2 doubles, his first extra base hits of the year, and 2 or 3 of the other outs, he was really driving the ball. Also had 2 walks. Just overall, the approach was a lot better, and I think that it's a lot more realistic for a guy like him to bounce back. Just
Yeah.
in the sense of, I think he had like a 120 WRC plus the last like 100 games last year. He's
Right.
not that. That's not far removed. Like you're telling me
Yeah.
he can't be like a 110 guy. So I think that just he's the guy to look out for.
For sure.
Um.
He's the guy
Then
you want to get right because he just
yeah.
obviously any guy getting right would just lengthen the lineup, but
Mm.
no.
Yeah, especially with how good he is with runners in scoring position when he was just. But then we'll get into my favorite player on the Yankees, Ben Rice. So he hit his first 2 doubles, and the second double was like 2 feet away from a home run. Is hitting 281 with a 385 on base, 344 slugging on the year, 729 OPS. Excuse me, sorry. In his last 7 games, he has an 873 OPS. Been hitting really well. Just I don't see how you can not have him as your everyday first baseman. I don't
Yeah.
care if it's against a lefty. Kyle Wright's one of the
Right.
toughest, is like a pretty tough lefty pitcher. Went 2 for 3 off him, and
Right.
just it's
There's
ridiculous to me.
JD Davis and even DJ LeMahieu do not deserve at bats over Ben Rice, personally. I
And
think if
even
you
then, you could start all 3 of them if you wanted.
right, and I think having Ben Rice and giving him time to adjust and kind of see where he's at can fix a huge hole you have at first base and make the trade deadline a little less more important when you have 4 positions to fix and now maybe you need 2 or 3.
Especially when you consider he just has to be a league average guy. When look how bad Anthony Rizzo was, where he's one of the worst hitters in baseball. If Ben Rice is average, that is incredible for your lineup. Incredible.
Right.
And just Oh man, the sun's shining. Let me close you a little bit. No, that's opening.
You're getting sun. I'm hearing thunder in the back. What's going on?
Yeah, and we're
But
both in New
back to
York.
Ben Rice. Yeah, exactly. But
Just
quickly to Ben Rice. I might be stealing your thunder here a little bit,
go on. I had
but
nothing else on him.
perfect. His, albeit 40 plate appearance sample size, his underlying metrics are pretty encouraging. You know, he's obviously not qualified, but he has a 14 K percentage, which would look about 90%, 90 percentile, a 11%, 11.4% walk, which looks to be around high 80s, low 90s. Launch angle sweet spot, pretty good. Chase percentage, really good. Average exit velocity around 90, 91 miles an hour. Expected batting average at 311.
No.
Very encouraging. I like what I see so far from him. And like you mentioned, he only needs to be a league average bat, and he has an excellent feel for the strike zone. So there's no reason for him not to play. And I'm very excited to see where he can improve. And plus, he is your backup catcher
Yeah.
if you really need it. That's just another plus.
I think the thing that's very interesting to me is that I talked a lot about his barrel percentage in the minors being like the best out of anyone in the minors over the last couple of years. He has a 7.7 barrel percentage, which would be about like 45th percentile this year. If he gets that going, you're looking at a guy who's going to be one of the better first basemen hitting wise.
Yeah.
If he gets that
And
going.
right, and he doesn't have a great barrel percentage right now, but he has a good sweet spot percentage. So when he gets that good launch angle, he's hitting the ball hard, which is obviously really important. But I think that shows that potential to have a high barrel percentage.
I just want to go back for half a second on Glaber because I'm done with Ben Rice. Do you have anything else on him?
No, I'm good.
Starting.
Yeah, go
That's
ahead.
it. So there was a thing I saw that it was as of the 25th, so a couple days ago. It was a chart of getting calls / not getting calls in the strike zone. Glaber Torres had the 11th most calls against him than how they should have been for a strike zone. So it pretty much subtracts its calls for you minus calls against you. He was minus 19. So that means 19 pitches that should have been balls were called strikes against him. Anthony Volpe was 5th worst in baseball.
Oh, wow.
He at minus 23.
Oof.
So there, even that Volpe's been solid offensively. Be interesting to see why that is, because not even like he's a tall guy. He's 5'11", like
Right,
or no, he's 5'9". He's 5'9". So he's
right.
a shorter guy.
I like Aaron Judge.
Yeah, he wasn't even on the list for either side, by the way, which was
Right.
weird.
Interesting.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So just something I saw that shocked me. But speaking of Aaron Judge, I don't know what to say anymore. It's not official yet, but he's most likely won back-to-back player of the months. He has 42 extra base hits in the last 2 months, with 25 of those being home runs. 37 RBIs in June. Average exit velocity in those 2 months of 98.5, a 276 WRC plus. What?
He has 31 home runs, and it is just turning to July.
Yeah.
That's insane. This is a guy's MVP season,
Yeah.
and he's still going.
It's. I just want to point out he has 82 RBIs on the season. He is 30 away from hitting the over.
Yikes!
I took the over. I thought it was easy.
I don't believe I did.
I said that Juan Soto was going to get on base at an insane rate, and Aaron Judge was going to be knocking him in at an insane rate. I said that they were going to have them 2-3, and I'm just saying. And I also said Anthony Volpe would get on base a lot more. He would be the leadoff hitter, and that would be that. I'm just saying.
Anywho,
But I'll leave you for last. Did you know that Trent Grisham has actually been like one of the better Yankees in June?
I did.
Did you see his numbers in June?
Not in the total month, but I saw like the past like 15 games. Like he was on fire.
In the month of June, he has a 157 WRC plus.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. He has 4
Pretty
home
good.
runs and 9 RBIs. Just that's crazy. And even then, his on base is 341. His weighted on base is 390. So it's saying he should be getting on base a lot more.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
yeah,
you take
weird.
it where you can get it.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on Trent Grisham, which makes no sense that I should be.
Yeah.
But granted, 41 plate appearances, but still, I don't
Yeah.
really care because it fits my narrative. Then, let me. Yeah, I'll mention him. I want to say it was Verdugo that had a hit. It was going deep. It was going out. Kevin Kiermaier robbed him.
Oh, yeah.
I hate Kevin Kiermaier. I despise Kevin Kiermaier with a burning passion. I just do not I cannot stand that man. He's one of those guys that just makes Superman play after Superman play and just because he has this very annoying habit of what he does is
Being good at his job.
no, he
Go
will
ahead, yeah.
back up. Like say that the ball is going 380
Oh.
feet, he will go 390 feet and look like he's still sprinting, and then come back for the ball.
Yeah.
So it makes you think, oh, it's got a chance. It's not even at the warning track.
Right.
I cannot stand Kevin Kiermaier. I hope he gets traded to, like, the Reds.
The Reds.
It just, why? He's so annoying to watch. He's so annoying to watch, and he always kills the Yankees. I just can't stand him.
Yeah.
Probably a great guy,
screaming rock.
but he just annoys me.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else on the offense?
No, I think the last 2-3 games, whichever.
I think it was 3
Hold on.
games.
Last 2-3 games, I will say that looked better. There's a lot more guys contributing than just Aaron Judge. So I think once guys start clicking, you just need everyone to be average to above average, and Aaron Judge will be Aaron Judge.
You want to
I
hear some
think that's all
bipolar?
it is.
You want to hear some bipolar runs? Going
Oh.
back to Game 2 of the Braves series.
Mm-hmm.
8 runs, 1 run, 7 runs, 2 runs, 2 runs. Oh wait, yeah, 2 runs. 16 runs, 3 runs, 8 runs.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Either be a consistently good offense or a consistently bad. I don't
Yeah.
get how you go from scoring 16 to 2 to 8. To having
I think
2
we
the night
talked about
before
this,
and
like,
then having
months ago.
7. Yeah. I think we did
Yeah.
too, but
Yeah, extremely consistently inconsistent.
yeah. Which was fine when the pitching was one of the best in baseball, but now when it just has
Right.
been god awful in June, it's like
Right.
yeah. The kind of last thing I wanted to mention was Garrett Cole. He pitched 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. He did have 2 hit by pitches today. He threw 90 pitches, was more than I thought, because they were kind of saying 80 to 85 pitches. I think that's like the most underrated part about that start, because you think about it now, he's fully built up.
Right.
Because he's not going to really throw more than 105 in a start.
Yeah.
He had that like 121 pitch outing against Houston a couple of years ago, but that I still get like, where he struck out the last 3 guys in the 9th inning at Houston. In a 1-run game where Aaron Judge hit a home run to give him the run. But yeah, he's just... You saw
He
a
looked
lot
a
more
lot.
from him. He had 12
Absolutely.
whiffs. The velo was a lot more consistent. So that was probably the most encouraging thing for me from the series.
Yeah.
Just seeing him
for
doing
sure.
that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he was sitting around, call it 95, 96 today.
I
when
think
obviously-
96.
Yeah, obviously he pulled a lot back in that Mets game. So just seeing him to be able to at 90 pitches, consistently hit that 95, 96 is extremely encouraging.
Yeah.
A lot of his stuff plays off that fastball, And once you have kind of that fastball back to where it's supposed to be, he'll be fine.
And even then, he didn't seem like he was that dominant.
Right.
Like, he didn't have the control he usually... I think it was the first 2 or 3 innings, he was kind of, like, getting pissed at himself, like, kicking himself. But then he kind of settled in, like, an ace does. And, yeah.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Good stuff from Cole. And obviously going to need him for the long haul.
Yeah. Anything else on the week overall for the Yankees? Because I was just going to get into Reds.
Not really. I mean, hey, you passed the halfway mark of the season. So there's that. Is officially the officially second half of the season. Even though everyone, obviously, the All-Star break is really the second half.
That's 100 games in.
Yeah, exactly. So, regardless.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But then going into the series against Cincinnati, the Yankees go home for a 3-game set. They have an off day tomorrow. They have Luis Gil going up against Graham Ashcraft. They have Carlos Rodon going up against Andrew Abbott. And then you have Mark Stroman going up against old friend Frankie Montas on the 4th of July. That is going to be interesting.
That'll be fun.
What is the number one thing that you're looking forward to for that series? Because I got mine.
Against the Reds? I mean, the Reds have been struggling, so I guess that Frankie Montas game, I don't know.
Jose Trevino versus Ellie De La Cruz.
Oh my god. Oh, fair enough.
That is gonna be so bad.
Nuclear bomb versus coughing baby.
Dude, you can't let him get on base. You
honestly
can't. Put into perspective for those that don't know, Ellie De La Cruz is at 40 stolen bases?
Yeah.
And Jose Trevino is the worst at throwing guys out, so you cannot let him get on base.
If he gets on base, it's a run.
He's stealing home. Jose Trevino will find a way to not. He will try to throw him out at home.
Just pop it up to himself. It's gonna take too long to come back down, and he's already there.
Yeah. Just.
I didn't even think of that. That's funny.
Yeah, Jose Trevino versus Ellie De La Cruz is gonna be something else. But yeah, if you want to take us away.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, we'll move on to Queens.
Choo-choo.
Now entering Queens.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Queens, where the Mets have finished up a 3-2 homestand in an overall very good month of June. They finished with the second best record in June, of course, to the Astros. Astros finished 17-8. The Mets finished 16-8. Coming off of May, this was a hell of a month.
The only thing more powerful than Grimace is Oscar the Grouch.
Honestly. Trash cans, am I right, guys? But tush. But coming off of
the
May,
trash can as the drum.
As the thing.
As the drum,
yeah.
But
I get it.
On the trash can, yeah.
We're on the same page.
Same wavelength.
Oh my god. Anyways, but coming off that brutal May, they basically turned their season around, I'd say. Obviously ended on a kind of sour note, dropping the final 2 games against the Astros. But they finished the month 2 games behind the 3rd wildcard spot. And with another month until the trade deadline, they're in a pretty good spot. They control their own destiny. But before we get into the actual games, well, I guess the Astros series, since we talked about and Grimace, of course. How could I forget? Thank you, Grimace. One of the biggest driving powers of this month. It's just slow pan up of Grimace. But before we get into the Astros series, honestly, the injury report brought to you by Triboro MD, and starts off with a pretty unfortunate and pretty upsetting note. Drew Smith, who was placed on the IL earlier this week with a sprained elbow. Tommy John is on the table. That would be his 2nd career Tommy John, and he is set to be a free agent after this year. Drew Smith, although not incredibly consistent, he was a reliable bullpen arm He's been with the Mets for a while. Always dealt with some every year, but he has a career 3.48 ERA and almost 200 innings. So he's a guy you could have always relied on to give you innings and produce when it in stretches. But pretty unfortunate. He was very upset, visibly upset in his interview when they were asking him about it, and that just makes everything just worse.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was the guy that went in after Diaz, right?
Yes, I was just going to get to that.
Okay.
So, thank you, Justin. As a refresher, after Diaz got ejected out of last Sunday's game against the Cubs, Drew Smith was the first guy in. He had to warm up quick. It was a very unfortunate situation to be put in for Drew Smith, and I'm sure it's not the sole reason. When it comes to ligament damage and stuff like that, it happens over time. It's not going to snap just like that. It was, if anything, just delaying the inevitable. But it's hard not to point a finger towards that night and what probably sped up the process, because he was taken out after. Bless you.
Thank
He
you.
was taken out after the 3-batter minimum, and he was shaking his arm after, I think, his second batter. He was shaking his arm out, so obviously something just didn't click right there, and it's probably where he felt something, a snap or tightness or soreness, whatever. But, tests come back and a sprained elbow, and we'll see. But if it is Tommy John, almost the worst time to get it, unfortunately. Being a free agent in the middle of the season, you're going to miss, obviously, the rest of this year, if not the whole season, a majority of next year.
Yeah. He's a reliever, so he may be able to squeak out a couple months or like a month or two. But
Right.
I only mentioned him being after Diaz because I don't think necessarily that was the reason why he may have to get Tommy John. Because you look at it, guys do that all the time. A guy will either get ejected, he'll be hurt, they got to call another guy, you got to warm up in a pinch. That happens a lot of times. I feel like kind of what you said, where it was gonna happen eventually. It may have just happened like an appearance earlier, but I don't
Right.
think you can necessarily say like, oh, if Diaz didn't get suspended, he wouldn't got hurt. It's one of those things where it's almost like Michael King's elbow a couple years ago, where everyone's like, oh, Chapman blew it, then King had to come in, then King fractured his elbow. You don't just fracture an elbow or tear tear your UCL by throwing one pitch. It's a
Right.
build up, so just yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's if anything, it was just delayed the inevitable. But either way, tough luck for Drew Smith, and hope for a speedy recovery if surgery does go through. And we'll see what happens in the offseason. Maybe the Mets give him one of those 2-year, rehab the first year, come back to second year deals. But we will see. On to the next guy. Starling Marte was placed on the 10-day IL
There you go.
with a knee bone bruise. He is expected to be sidelined for about 4 weeks, so it's basically a month. Probably won't be seeing Marte until the end of July, beginning of August. But obviously, just a tough blow for the Mets. He was one of their better hitters in all of June, but he wasn't hurt yet, and I felt like it was almost a matter of time until he got hurt. He is an aging outfielder. He did have issues with his legs and the groin and all that, so I think it was only a matter of time until they lost him for a little bit. But 4 weeks is a little brutal, and in that time, a lot this week, Tyrone Taylor got a lot of the playing time. It's just extremely more unfortunate. Very similar to the Dominguez injury with the Yankees. If Drew Gilbert didn't get hurt earlier in his AAA season, he probably or maybe would have been the first guy up once Marte went down. So just very frustrating, but Tyrone Taylor has done a steady job filling in for Marte thus far. And I guess the other thing, too, is now that I think of it, if the Mets did want to trade him at the trade deadline or try to, it's going to be that much harder, but we'll see. I don't think if any team was seriously interested in Marte, I don't think missing a month would really change their aspirations. But
He has
again,
what, 2 years left?
Yeah, a year and a half.
Okay.
This year and another.
Call
And
that
then,
what, 30 million about that left on that contract, 32.
give or take, yeah,
That I
right.
think it's one of those things of if you trade him, I don't see how you don't eat like at least 90% of that.
You're definitely eating a lot of the money,
You're eating at least
without a
80 to
doubt.
90% of that.
Without a doubt. But to finish things off, for some good news, Kodai Senga threw a bullpen on Sunday. Sounds like everything went well, and they're hopeful for him to start a rehab assignment this week. So if he starts a rehab assignment this week, you figure 3 to 4 week ramp up. Probably see him beginning of August if all goes well. Sometime before that if everything goes exceptionally well. But obviously, just some good news there. And I guess the last thing I want to leave it off with is more of a roster move, but Tyler McGill was optioned after his Saturday start against the Astros, and Gary Cohen on SNY mentioned that Christian Scott might be up to start on Tuesday for the Mets. No official word of that yet, but it sounds like they will put Christian Scott in at least some point this week after being in AAA for basically the entire month of June. So obviously, with a struggling Jose Quintana and Tyler McGill not really giving them much, Christian Scott will be a welcomed re-addition to this Mets rotation. And finally, to get to the actual games, the reason why you're all here, instead of me just regurgitating what you probably already read, Mets finished June losing 2 out of 3 out of the Astros with 2 games they probably should have won. 1 game they definitely should have won. But we'll get to that. I mean, the offense stayed hot until the last game, really. But even the last game, they scored 5 runs. So say what you will, but they scored 7 runs off of Ronel Blanco, or I think it was 6, but 7 in the entire game off of Ronel Blanco, and 6 runs off of Framber Valdez, who are I would say the Astros' 2 best starters currently. And Mets continued to do what they did in June. They hit off really good starting pitching, and they got them out early. Blanco only pitching, I think, 4
5 and
plus
two
innings.
thirds.
Yeah, 5 and 2
And it
thirds.
was
And
6 runs, 3 earned.
yeah, oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, Bregman
Yeah.
had a pretty bad error that led to a Jeff McNeil threw Hoover on a home run. So who would have guessed that?
But regardless,
But
6 hits and 3 walks in not
right,
6 innings. That's still a lot of base runners. That's not even including the error, like you said.
right,
That's another
right.
base runner in.
Yeah, and then Framber Valdez, I think, only lasted about 4 innings, and they scored 6 runs off of him as well. But the biggest story of this entire series was the pitching, and more so, I guess, the bullpen. But a lot of it still relies on the starting pitching. And in the first 2 games, you had Jose Quintana go only 4 innings, throwing 93 pitches. You then had to use 4 different relievers. I can never pronounce his first name. Daniel Nunez for 2 innings. I think it
Daniela
was
Nunez.
false. I think it was Jake Diekman for another inning, and then it was Reed Garrett to finish things off in the
Which game was
ninth.
this?
This was
1 or
game
2?
1 on Friday. Oh, I forgot. Ottavino had an inning in there as well. So it went Ottavino for 1, Nunez for 2, Diekman for 1, Reed Garrett for 1. Still, 4 different relievers to cover 5 innings. I mean, you're asking for trouble with an already depleted bullpen because of the Diaz suspension. You're working with a 25-man roster into
A
26.
7-man bullpen.
Right. But they won that first game thanks to, like I mentioned before, a Jeff McNeil 3-run home run. And Jose Iglesias performed his new song on the field after the win, which I think was super cool. People just hate fun, but I thought it was super cool. The song, unironically, is really good. I really like it a lot. But it's called Oh My God by Candelita. So go check it out. Let's support our boy Jose. But regardless, game 2 on Saturday was a very frustrating loss. And my final straw with Tyler McGill. He went 5 1/3, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. It doesn't look like a bad line, but when you really get into it, he got a 5-run lead going into the 4th inning, and he allows 3 runs in that inning for the Astros to crawl back. So it went from 6-1, to a 6-4 game, which just changes everything. Especially for a team like the Astros. Yeah, they had a bad start, but again, they finished with the best record in June next to the Mets. So they are having a really good month, and there's a really hot team, and you let them crawl back when being up by 5 runs. And again, 5 runs can be gone like that, but still, just the magnitude of being down by 5 instead of being down by 2 in the 4th inning changes the whole complexity of the game. So very frustrating outing by McGill because he just let the Astros crawl back into that game. But unfortunately, that wasn't even the worst part of it because due to him only going 5 1/3, the Mets had to use another, well, not really much due to him, but still. If you could push through 6 and then some, different story. They still used 4 relievers. What's his first name? Excuse me, I forgot his first name. Ty Adcock, who was called up that day.
Who?
Got to add some cock in the month of June, man.
Who?
But he pitched an inning and 2/3. Then Diekman was brought in the 8th and absolutely imploded and had a Jake Diekman outing. He lasted only 2/3 of an inning, allowed 2 runs on 2 walks and 1 strikeout. And then Reed Garrett was brought in to limit the damage, and he did not, walking another 2 batters and allowing a hit to Alex Bregman that would give the Astros the lead. Danny Young came in afterwards for an inning and a third and didn't really do well either. So just a complete and utter implosion by the bullpen. 4 walks in 1 inning is completely unacceptable, and they basically just handed the Astros the game on a silver platter. Look, you can also blame the offense if you want. I'm not going to rag on them too much. They scored 6 runs. Yeah, they didn't score it. After the 3rd inning, they didn't score another run, but 6 runs should be more than enough to get you to the end of that game. But McGill brought the Astros back in. The bullpen imploded in the 8th inning, and the rest is history.
Yeah. And
that was a very frustrating loss.
I was just going to say, that's why my big thing is, if I have the chance to leave a starter in, I'm leaving the starter in. Where say that's like they're through 6 2/3, they got 2 guys on, it's a close game. I would much rather die by that starter than put in a bullpen arm. Because the more bullpen arms you have to put in, no matter how good those guys are, the more chances you are that one guy's just not on it tonight.
Right.
You're just putting more... Just the odds are saying that you're more likely to put a guy in that doesn't have it if you put more guys in.
Right.
And I'd just rather take that bet. So that's a part of the reason why you're saying having 4 or 5 guys pitch in a game for only relievers is such a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Especially on back-to-back nights. And
Exactly.
Diekman and Garrett were working on back-to-back days as well.
With an already short bullpen.
Right, because you have no one else to turn to. And, that's the issue that they're dealing with because you have Drew Smith most likely out for the season. Brooks Raley out for the season. Edwin Diaz stupidly suspended. Sean Reed Foley on the IL. You have 4 guys who would have been in your bullpen scrapped. And for a bullpen, that's a lot. So, say what you want about Drew Smith, but...
I'm just looking at some of these names. Matt Festa, Tyler J, Ty Adcock, Danielle Nunez, like you said, like... Who? And that's more than half your bullpen right now.
Right, and, you have Adam Ottavino, who just got his ERA below 5 the other day. So, you're playing with fire with a depleted bullpen and a bullpen that doesn't have a lot of names due to injury. This is where you need length from your starters. This is where you need guys to go 6, 7 innings so you don't have to pitch 4 different relievers for 5 innings back-to-back nights. So it's just a very frustrating game.
Also, another thing, 3 of those guys, the 3 guys I mentioned, that I have heard of. One of them is a starter. The other two are 37 and 38 years old.
Right. So, what are you gonna do? It's Carlos Mendoza is in such a tough spot, and of course he's gonna get the brunt of it. But when you have a depleted bullpen like this, and you have guys just not executing pitches, it's tough to win ball games.
Yeah.
But that brings me to Sunday's game where the Mets dropped the series 10-5. They don't. Final score doesn't look close, but it was close all game. Luis Severino had a very odd start. He went 7 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. But what inning was that?
Severino, the king of having the weirdest starts of all time.
Yeah,
He just
I
doesn't
think it
make
was
sense.
3rd inning, I want to say.
I'll get you.
4th inning, I think. I think it was 4th inning, where they scored 2 runs.
Yeah, fourth
He
inning.
got like dink and doinks, a lot of soft contact that found the hole or just dropped in. So just some unfortunate batted ball luck was not on his side. But still, 7 innings, 4 runs, don't hate it. And he only threw, where is it? 79 pitches. So he could have gone out for the 8th. Yeah. The
And
move confused me as well, but
it's
Hauser
also a
came in
thing
afterwards. So, like,
that run he gave up in the fifth. How do you give it up? Was it a home run? What was it?
the 5th?
Because he
I
went
don't
one in the second, two
yeah.
in the fourth, and one in the fifth.
That was
Regardless,
RBI single.
okay.
Yeah, that was one of them that kind of just, like, dunked in.
Because you look at it, the sixth and seventh, he didn't give up any runs. So he found his groove. He's at 79 pitches. Like, what?
Yeah, I think, or at least in my mind, I'm thinking it's because facing the lineup for the 4th time.
But you,
Or
like I
third
literally
time,
just
whatever.
said, if
So,
I
like,
have the chance to leave a guy in, I'm leaving him in.
yeah. So I probably would have left Severino in as well. At least let him start the 8th. At the very least, let him start the 8th and see what happens. But look, they brought in Adrian Hauser, and it's not like he didn't help. Adrian Hauser, who's been just fantastic out of the bullpen, pitching another 2 innings scoreless, only giving up 2 hits and a strikeout. So he was good in his outing. So it's not like that pulling Severino early hurt them at all. But the Mets fought back from that 4-0 deficit. A 2 RBI double from Mark Vientos got them close in the 6th, and a game-tying 2-run home run from Brandon Nimmo tied the game in the 7th, which was Brandon Nimmo's 100th career home run. So congrats to him.
Shocking, by the way.
I know. I mean, he's never really been a power hitter.
But still, just for how
Yeah.
long he's been in the league.
Right. But after that, scoreless innings from Hauser and rain delay. 2-hour rain delay, which probably helped the Mets because Josh Hader was warming up in the top of the 9th to pitch the bottom of the 9th to the Mets. And assuming I didn't see anything out of it, he probably got too warm. They couldn't bring him in once the rain delay was over. So you avoid Hader, but the Mets go down in order in the 9th inning to then bring the game to extras. In extra innings, Adam Ottavino pitches the top of the 10th. He lets up that ghost runner to score, but then gets the next 2 guys to end the inning. So it's now a 5-4 game. In the bottom of the 10th, Brandon Nimmo again doubles to score the ghost runner, Francisco Lindor, to tie the game at 5. Nimmo at second with 2 outs. Nimmo at second with no outs does not come across to score. JD Martinez had a pretty poor at-bat. I hate to rag on JD because he's just been so good, especially over this past month. But he got a fastball, kind of caught a lot of plate, really didn't do anything.
That's an understatement. I watched the game for like the bottom of the 10th inning. That ball literally could not have been more down the middle.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I thought when I saw that pitch, I'm like, oh, it's like runner on second, no out, JD Martinez with how clutch he's been for the Mets. Like, I thought that game was over.
Yeah, I thought so as well, but he took it, and that led to a 2-1 count. He later struck out in the at bat on what would have been ball four, which makes things even more frustrating. So just not being able to at least move the runner over is extremely frustrating with two outs, and then they intentionally walk Alonso. Harrison Bader grounds out, so you have second and third with two outs. Mark Vientos grounds out to end the inning and the Mets' hopes of winning that game as Matt Festa comes in top of the 11th to make his Mets debut and completely shits the bed. Gives up four hits like that. Four hits, 5 runs. Don't even think he struck out anybody. I don't even know. But that's just a testament to where the bullpen was. They didn't really have another guy to turn to. Matt Festa was the guy, and he didn't execute. Lets up 5 runs. Game's out of reach. There you go, Mets. So extremely, extremely frustrating losses on back-to-back nights. I'm okay with losing today's game just because of where the bullpen was at and the rain delay and everything. But that bottom of the 10th, you had such a big chance to walk off that game, and you couldn't cash in. And then the bullpen yesterday, just atrocious, completely unacceptable. That can't 4 walks in 1 inning can't happen, especially when you were at once winning 6-1. So frustrating series to end June, which was obviously a very, very good month. But at the end of the day, they ended the week 3-2. Sweeping the Yankees, losing 2 out of 3 of the Astros. If you would have told me the Mets ended this week 3-2 against the Yankees and Astros, I would have been completely content. I
Yeah.
would have assumed a split with the Yankees. You took 2 out of 3 against the Astros. Completely fine. Obviously, the way the week ended, this 3-2 week feels a little different and a lot more frustrating. But at the end of the day, wins are wins, losses are losses. You got to move on. But bring me to my next points. Back to the starting pitching. Diaz is going to be out another 5 days. He's going to miss this upcoming 4 games against the Nationals, and he should miss, if I did the math correctly, he should miss that first game against the Pirates. So you are, again, working with a depleted bullpen. You can maybe option David Peterson after his start on Monday to bring up A, Christian Scott, or B, another relief pitcher. So you can get creative there. But either way, the starters need to give length because this bullpen is in no shape to be pitching 4 or 5 innings day in, day out with 3 to 4 different pitchers. There's not enough names. You have guys who are struggling like Ottavino and Diekman who are just not executing pitches. You got to be perfect almost. And to lessen the, or I guess to widen the margin of error, if your starter goes 6, 7 innings, it's a lot better than 5, a lot better than 4 2/3, whatever. So the starters need to give you more length, use less relievers during the game, but obviously the bullpen is becoming extremely thin. Like I mentioned earlier, Drew Smith looks like he's out. He's going to be out for the year with Tommy John, and Brooks Raley already out for the year with Tommy John. Sean Reed-Foley hurt. He should be back by the end of the week. But there are some reinforcements on the way. You have 2 guys currently rehabbing in Bryce Montes de Oca and Shintaro Fujinami. Montes de Oca is
I
probably the
completely
name.
forgot about him.
Yeah, right?
I completely
He's,
forgot about Fujinami.
he started the year in AAA and was just not having a good year, and then he got hurt. Then he's put on the 60-day, and now he's rehabbing. Whatever. But
Fuck.
yeah, Bryce Montes de Oca is the guy I am circling, or the guy I'm excited to see. I think he appeared in 2022, got Tommy John in 23. Really weird arm slot, kind of like cross body almost side armor, but he throws like an 100-mile-an-hour sinker. The Mets could use some more velocity out of that pen, and obviously just with his arm slot gives a different look coming out of the bullpen compared to other guys. And
He
Shintaro
pitched
Fujinami.
he pitched
Go ahead.
3
Yeah,
games in 2022 for the Mets.
right. And I forget, what was his ERA in those 3 games? Or his
And
stats of those 3
survey
games?
says where we get
Probably not great.
14.54.
Sick. But,
Oh wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong year. Sorry, 10.8.
okay.
Better.
Still, better, not great. But the point is, his stuff can play up. And coming back from injury,
To put in 3.1 innings, 6 strikeouts.
right, see? Strikeout stuff is there. Small sample size. So what? In those 3 innings, he gave up 3, 4 runs, I'm assuming?
What is that? 4 runs.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 runs.
So,
But just looking at,
small,
I was just gonna say, looking at
yeah,
like other things in 2022 as a whole, 51 innings, he had 80 strikeouts. In 2021 as a whole, in 34 innings, he had 47 strikeouts, and everything else is college.
right. So, strikeout stuff is there. His stuff can play up. So, I'm really excited to see if he can bring anything to the table. But Fujinami is the real wild card here. If he knows where the ball's going, if he can figure out how to master his control, he can be a real weapon out of the bullpen, and he can make this bullpen look a lot different. He, I think, I think I said it when they signed him. If they can get him to control his pitches and have better command, he can be an elite, like 8th-inning setup man for Edwin Diaz. And on nights where Diaz can't pitch, or whichever the reason is, I think he can close games. It's all about command. But we'll see if that. So they have bullpen reinforcements on the way, but that's one of the biggest issues of this Mets team right now. They are currently 40-41, 2 games out of the wild card race, and they played their 81st game today. And I think they're right around where a lot of people kind of pegged them to be. Around 500, kind of hanging in there in the wild card race. Not really sure what they're going to do. I think it was a very emotional roller coaster way of getting there, but I think this kind of checks out. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I just ripped
Given
one. That's why I gave a weird face.
I could see, yeah, I could see
Yeah,
that.
that's what. Yeah, and then just kind of to add or to expand upon your point about them being 2 games out of the wild card. Their stretch that they're coming up against, their next 18 games will be against the Nationals, Pirates, Rockies, and Marlins. 4 teams that are a combined 59 games under 500.
Right. So
That's a big
easy
spot to win up
schedule,
ground.
right? Soft schedule, but yes, it's a tough schedule because of the no off days, but it's against teams that you can win series against.
When will
But
Diaz be back? Like
he'll,
game
I think
3 or something like that?
game 2 against the Pirates, I think, because I think
Okay.
the first game against the Pirates is the 10th day, so he should be back
Okay.
the day after. I think I'm pretty sure.
So he'll be back in the Pirates series.
Right, he'll be back at one point in the Pirates series, which obviously will just be a great help. But out of all those teams, I think the Pirates can prove to be an issue because of the rotation. You know, you are facing Paul Skeens.
I was
You
about to
are
ask
going to
that.
see Mitch Keller, and who had a spectacular June. Jared Jones, I think, has been struggling lately, but he's still a really good pitcher. So the Pirates series is one to watch. I'm sure it'll be an entertaining one. But with the Nationals, you kind of know what you're getting. They're a pesky team. They're calling up James Wood, of course, because it's against the Mets. So you'll have an extra bat to kind of want to be careful around. Yes, he's a rookie, but he's a top prospect for a reason. But yeah, I think this is obviously the stretch where you want to make up ground. And these are the teams to do it against. You beat Mackenzie Gore before. You faced DJ Hertz and the rest of the Nationals rotation before. The Rockies are the Rockies. That's a team you really should beat. And then the Marlins always pesky as well. So on paper, it looks like an quote-unquote easy schedule, but it's nothing to scoff at, I don't think, except for the Rockies. And I say that, and they'll be swept by the Rockies.
And
But-
I just checked it because I was going to say, in Colorado, it could be a little tougher, but they are
Right.
at Citi Field.
Right. So, little home field advantage there. So, we will see. But, yeah, I mean, I'm obviously frustrated with how the two games ended Saturday, Sunday, but I do think the Mets are in a good spot. I really do. They're one game under 500. They started the month 11 games under 500. So you made up 10 games there. You are the closest team to that third wildcard spot, 2 games out. The rest is in their hands. If the offense has to keep kind of doing what they've been doing, they're not going to be the best offense in baseball like they were this month. But they don't have to be. They just need to keep the team in games. Likewise, the starting pitching needs to keep the team in games as well. Give them some length. Try to get some weight off of that depleted bullpen, and see where we're at. Christian Scott should be coming up. That'll be some reinforcements. Kodai Senga hopefully is on his way back. Like I mentioned, Montes de Oca, Fujinami, Diaz, Sean Reed-Foley should be coming back. You got the guys. It's in your hands. You just got to play well. So that's really all I got. If you had anything else to add on.
Nah, it's one of those things where you can't have one thing be on and then the other. Like,
Yeah.
you saw this in the series. You can't have the offense be on and then the pitching be off. You need... unless you are absolutely dominant in one thing, you need an overall team approach, and you're not... or team production, you're just not getting that.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So bullpen is priority number 1. So David Stearns, I know you're definitely listening. Start taking calls. Start calling around.
And here's my resume.
Yeah, exactly. Here's my resume, but waiver claim here, trade for cash here. You got to piece it together. That's where they're at right now. But
Go on ESPN Fantasy and whatever Matthew Barry says is a fair trade, do that.
yeah, exactly. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But
Even though he does
regardless-
fantasy football.
regardless, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching as always. Reminder, subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Said TikTok already. Just follow us on Spotify.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Big one. That's what I was missing. But do all that good stuff. Let us know how you feel about the Yankees and Mets in the comments. Halfway point of the season. How you guys feeling? But again, thank you guys for listening, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.